This audio narration is of the book Indefensible, written by Thomas Banks, narrated by the author. Indefensible Dedication. Like so many book dedications, there are simply too many people to acknowledge and thank. Generally, I want to thank everyone that has believed in me throughout my career as an entrepreneur, technology innovator, and visionary. Most importantly, I want to dedicate this book to my wife, Melinda. Since meeting 27 years ago, she has been the most unwavering supporter of everything I have done, success and failures. Until Melinda came into my life, I can honestly say that I lacked focus and purpose. If it weren't for her faith and constant prayers, I would never have achieved anything. More importantly, I owe her my salvation, for without her prayers and encouragement, I would never have found a relationship in Jesus. This book, my dear wife, was only made possible because of your unjustified belief in me. You are and will always be the most needed anchor in my life, my one true love, and the wind beneath my wings. I cannot begin to express the importance of my two sons, William and Jeremy, who both came into our life through the miracle of adoption. My oldest son, Willie, is truly a miracle child. Not only was he adopted at birth, he was also delivered by my wife, Melinda, who was a board-certified OBGYN. When Willie was born, his birth represented a turning point in my life. Briefly, his birth mother, who was also my wife's obstetric patient, had initially considered an abortion. After much thought, she told my wife during a subsequent office visit she decided to put her unborn child up for adoption. After much thought and soul-searching, Melinda and I decided to propose that we be considered as the adoptive parents. Each day I look upon my amazing son, and am reminded that he could have been aborted. I cannot imagine my life without Willie Banks. But thanks to intervention of the Holy Spirit, he was placed in our life and didn't become just another abortion statistic. When I watched my wife perform the cesarean section to deliver her newborn child, I am certain I am one of the few fathers in history who have the honor of witnessing my physician wife perform her art while delivering our son. What a remarkable experience. The birth of Willie changed my view on abortion and provided the foundation for my walk with Christ. This singular event will forever be the most amazing and impactful experience in my life. As a young man, now serving this great country, the United States Army, as a combat medic, Willie continues to affect my life in amazing ways. He is one of the most faithful men, young or old, I have ever known, as well as being an amazing patriot. God bless you, my son. In January, 10 years after Willie's birth, one of my employees asked if Melinda and I were interested in adopting another child. My first response that, at 53, I think Melinda and I were a little old to consider adoption, and a newborn at that. But after chatting over the phone with yet unborn Jeremy's birth mother and his grandmother, who happened to be 2 years younger than I, it was suggested that the three of us have a moment of prayer. Within a few minutes, they said that the Spirit of the Lord came upon them, and this unborn child was meant to be with us. Jokingly, I explained I needed to tell Melinda first. Within the hour, Melinda was on the phone. 4 months later, Melinda, Willie, and I found ourselves in Idaho Falls, Idaho, for Jeremy's birth. Albeit only 9, Jeremy is an amazing human. He is loving, funny, bright, and has incredible love of the Lord. He has and continues to impact my life in amazing and interesting ways. This loving child provides a new level of purpose and focus I had never imagined possible at 64. To my older brother William, 14 years my senior, who succumbed to heart disease 21 years ago, I too dedicate this book. It is after him that we named our first son. My brother Bill was an amazing gentleman with a double doctorate in anatomy and veterinary medicine, and was a dean at the Texas A&M University College of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. Bill always believed in me and cherished the relationship that developed way too late for the both of us. Throughout life, one has many acquaintances we so easily call friends. However, it is the rare acquaintance met totally by accident that defines a new and meaningful relationship. A person that becomes a true friend. A friend so close that the word brother is inadequate. To this singular individual, Mitch Tyke, I wish to dedicate this work. The loss of my brother William left a void I believed would never be filled. That is until Mitch, my best friend, was placed smack dab in the middle of my life. Mitch, my friend, my brother, your faith, character, patriotism, and values humble me and make me a better man. Thank you, Mitch. Indefensible, Chapter 1. New Age, New Idea. Ours is a world of nuclear giants and ethical infants. If we continue to develop our technology without wisdom or prudence, our servant may prove to be our executioner. General Omar Bradley. The early morning Wisconsin sun peeked through the tamarack and glistened against the frozen surface of Lake Mendota, dotted with 50-plus ice fishing houses. Each streaming blue-gray smoke from the wood-burning stoves deep within, warming the bones of these most ardent midwinter fishermen. A couple of adventurous speed skaters zipped by, breaking the serenity, followed by 3 ice sailors in tight formation, tacking north with their starboard blades raised high into the air, sparkling like lasers from the early morning sun. "Joe, think about it," said Dave Turner. "For $1,000 it costs me for this 6-rotor drone, I'm in business delivering beer, bait, and food to ice fishermen and never have to leave the warmth of my RV. If I only deliver 25 6-packs of beer a day for a paltry $5 each, I'll earn over $3,700 a month. That's almost $20,000 for the fishing season. Cash. You want in?" Joe Duke, Dave's childhood friend, looked skeptical, stared Dave down, pondering his friend's entrepreneurial spirit and exuberance. "Hell no, Dave. You can barely drive a car. How are you going to fly one of these contraptions?" Reeling from his friend's assault, Dave fired back. "Hell, these things fly themselves. I just flip this switch and my iPhone does the rest. Watch." Dave reached down and flipped the power button, and his new drone came to life, motors whirring yet barely making a sound. Dave tapped the screen on his iPhone, and his personal drone delivery system came to life, gently lifting off, rising to 10 feet with a 6-pack of beer suspended below. Pausing momentarily, Dave's drone swiftly zips across the frozen lake, followed by an almost imperceptible shadow. A few minutes later, the drone landed softly near an ice house while Dave talked on his iPhone, announcing the arrival of the order. A moment later, Dave tapped the screen of his iPhone, and the drone released its precious cargo and leapt into the air and began its journey back to Dave's RV. Just as Dave's drone lifted off to return home, a heavily bundled creature emerged from the warmth of his shelter to gather his cold and refreshing 6-pack of beer. There you have it. I just made $5. Truly a different agenda. The cold desert air plucked briskly at Mokhtar Barakat's cheeks while he talked about using drones to attack America. Imagine, for only $1,000 each, we can command an armada of attack drones invisibly and safely from here. With one tap on Mokhtar's smartphone, 8 drones, each laden with a half a pound of C4, lifted off from around the compound. As they rose up, Mokhtar's smartphone commanded them to assemble in a tight and efficient formation and speed away silently and swiftly. 2 minutes later, the attack armada approached their assigned target and then broke into 4 2-drone attack flights. Once aligned, as commanded, they paused for a moment, then each flight approached from their assigned quadrant. Without a command, they began a coordinated dance around their target, then merged together, ending in an impressive explosion, leaving only dust and rubble. The attack demonstration was followed by the unmistakable and all too familiar repeated clacks of 20-plus AK-47s cheering the success. Our operatives around the world can perform invisibly, embedded in communities, appearing to be regular minivan drivers, enjoying a simple hobby, said Mokhtar. Yet from anywhere, we will command coordinated attacks. All our operators need to do is park within 20 minutes of their assigned targets, open their sunroofs, and dispatch our indefensible aerial attack force of crafts too small to detect with radar and too slow for American jets to engage and subdue. Mokhtar put down his iPhone and turned his attention to his energized team of future drone commanders. To a man, each leaned forward enthusiastically, awaiting instructions for unleashing an incomprehensible plan to strike not one, but thousands of blows against the American infidels, blows so numerous and devastating, the mighty force of the Islamic State will resonate worldwide. Mokhtar's plan for his jihadist drone armada is to rain terror and devastation, unlike that since Al-Qaeda attacked on 9/11. Buildings, cruise ships, sports arenas, and even airliners departing and approaching airports are all easy targets, targets too numerous to identify, and more importantly, impossible to defend. My friends, said Mokhtar, in a few months, hundreds of drones like the ones you just witnessed today will arrive in America, invisible to the watchful eye of the infidels and into the hands of our brothers, waiting to carry the fight to their doorsteps. 4 months later, it begins. It's 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday, April 11th. Embedded Islamic State cells across America received notice from the numerous social media sites they monitored. That night, a message awaited them. That night, Twitter carried the deadly instructions. At Small Talk, so many have so little to say. Hashtag a little talk. At Winter Wonders, the joys of winter are never ending. Hashtag winter thoughts. At Relax and Enjoy, don't forget to take time to exercise. Hashtag take time to enjoy. Once received, each agent of doom entered the accompanying hashtag into the coupon field in any of 100 e-commerce websites maintained by supporters of the Islamic State. In moments, the websites returned confirmation that an assignment awaited them, along with highly encrypted targeting codes to be downloaded into their smartphones and attack drones. As quickly as the coded package was delivered, each patient attacker's smartphone immediately decoded the detailed attack plan and displayed the dates and times for receipt of their attack drones and ultimate delivery to their assigned targets. Seamlessly, two innocuous calendar entries were created, one entitled Package Receipt for Wednesday, April 22nd at 2:30 p.m. and the other entitled Package Delivery for Sunday, May 3rd at 9 a.m. Just as quickly, each assigned attacker's smartphone's navigation software was programmed with both the jihadist's rendezvous point to receive their drone and his assigned attack launch point. At 2:30 p.m. Wednesday afternoon, Adnan Bulyos, like dozens of his counterparts scattered along both the northern and southern borders of the United States, patiently waited in his van in a secluded park outside of Fabens, Texas. His phone chirped, the all-too-familiar sound announcing arrival of a new text message, a message letting him know his wait is almost over. As Adnan scanned the low southern horizon, he got his first glimpse of his assigned vehicle. Amazing, thought Adnan. This is just too easy. 3 minutes later, the buzzing sound of the multi-rotor miniature drone passed about 50 feet overhead. Adnan tapped the screen on his smartphone, and almost immediately the drone stopped in midair, reversed its course, and headed directly toward his van. Adnan stepped out of his blue minivan, moved about 30 feet toward the oncoming drone. Once again, Adnan tapped his smartphone. Like magic, the drone arrived overhead, stopped in midair directly over Adnan, and slowly began its descent, landing softly on the desert floor a few feet from Adnan, and turned itself off. Adnan swiftly yet gingerly picked up the drone as if it was a prized possession and returned it to the safety of his blue minivan. In one swift and single motion, Adnan opened the side door of his van and deliberately yet carefully placed the drone on the floor and covered it with the blanket he had at the ready. Adnan climbed back into the driver's seat and turned the key in the ignition. As swiftly as it all began, Adnan put the van into drive and without drawing attention began his trek back to his home. On Saturday at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, Adnan, like other assigned drone operators, quietly retreated to his garage and began the process of preparing his drone with its deadly payload. After carefully removing the prescribed quantity of C4, which had been securely hidden for months behind a secret panel in the garage, Adnan delicately folded in thousands of deadly stainless steel ball bearings. Once the mound of C4 was laced with stainless steel ball bearings, Adnan gently formed the plastic explosive into a cube and set it aside to be attached to the drone. Prior to attaching the deadly package, Adnan flicked the power switch on his drone to the on position and awakened his smartphone with a tap on a playful icon in the middle of its home screen. Immediately, Adnan's smartphone connected to his drone and began the pre-attack diagnostics. One after the other, each of the 6 small rotors on Adnan's drone came to life, confirming all was well with the motors, computer, GPS, and battery pack. Just as the drone completed its diagnostics, Adnan's smartphone began downloading the targeting information. Like clockwork, the drone's LED flashed red and blue each time it successfully received a portion of the targeting data. In less than 60 seconds, the drone's LED glowed steady green, indicating the targeting instructions were successfully loaded into memory. Once the drone's programming was complete, Adnan turned his attention to the explosive payload. Perspiration streamed down his face as he gently attached a deadly payload to the base of his drone with a few tie wraps and carefully inserted the computer-controlled detonator. In just under 30 minutes of preparation and programming, Adnan's drone was set up and ready for its morning mission. After tidying up his workbench, Adnan picked up his drone and returned it to the safety of his blue minivan and covered it with a blanket, shielding it from prying eyes. Number 1, Lincoln, Nebraska, April 19, 7 a.m. It never seems that we recover from terror, whether it is personal like the murder of a loved one or something that strikes at the core of society like 9/11 or the Boston Marathon bombing. The aftertaste lingers, a taste that forever colors our perceptions and interferes with our ability to find joy or peace. No matter how one tries, terror changes us forever. The blue Chevy minivan moved smoothly out of the suburban driveway in Lincoln, Nebraska. Its departure never caused an eyebrow to be raised for the simple fact it is one of many similar vehicles that filled the early morning streets. This morning, a convoy of minivans, SUVs, and sundry other vehicles migrated away from their sleepy little burgs toward the center of town to either participate in or be witness to the Lincoln annual 10K run. Every year, like clockwork, 25,000 adults and children came together to bring awareness to the developmental problems, raise money, and have a great time. Today, the agenda is no different, except for 4 souls who are party to a plot to forever taint the aftertaste of this historically joyous annual occasion. Sheriff Graham Johnson has been the head of Lincoln's law enforcement for more than 10 years, having succumbed to the pressure to seek public office. Being in the public eye was a path inconsistent with his personality and years of Special Forces training. Prior to joining the force, Johnson served 10 years in the Navy as a SEAL with a number of deployments in the Middle East. Rumor had it that Johnson was a member of SEAL Team 6, but when asked, his only response was, "I was in the Navy." "I hate these large gatherings," announced Sheriff Johnson, standing before his staff in the morning briefing. "There are simply too many loose ends to track. What intel do we have from the FBI and Homeland Security?" Leonard Michaels, Johnson's second in command, raised to his feet to share information he received during his 5 a.m. security briefing with the feds. "According to both the FBI and Homeland, there isn't any credible threat that warrants escalating our status. Just your typical nut jobs that always gravitate toward public events." "Well," said Sheriff Johnson, "let's keep our eyes open and ensure the safety of our good community." "Dismissed." As the staff dispersed, Johnson walked up to Michaels and placed his hand on his shoulder. "Well, my friend, I don't know. Perhaps it's the anxiety that accompanies these events paired with the consistent memory of 9/11 in Boston, but I'm always waiting for the next shoe to drop. I pray it doesn't drop today, and not in my town," lamented Johnson. Michaels softly utters, "Ditto," sharing his boss's angst. As Sheriff Johnson exited the briefing room, he saw Bonnie, his wife of 20 years, his 12-year-old daughter Karen, and his dog Bodie. The German Shepherd, too, was a Navy SEAL Johnson rescued after the dog was seriously injured by an improvised explosive device in Iraq. "Que nous sedani," commanded Johnson in Czech, and Bodie dutifully sidled up alongside his master and sat down. "You and Karen better make your way to the starting line or you'll miss the beginning of the race. I'll catch up with you later for brunch." Johnson kissed his wife, daughter, and patted Bodie on his side. "Take care of my girls, boy." Unlike a marathon, a 10K doesn't take a very long time and isn't spread over a large area. The city had defined, cordoned off, and implemented every conceivable security measure from manpower to Lincoln's own fleet of mini drone video platforms. Today, no one will slip through and threaten the security of Lincoln and the safety of its citizens. Unfortunately, the mounting threat is not about someone, but rather some things that waited patiently at the ready to begin their journey to terror. 2 miles outside of town, a nondescript minivan pulled into a quiet and empty parking lot with a view of downtown Lincoln. The driver of this particular soccer mom chariot knew that this morning was different from any other. As his van invisibly assumed its position, 3 equally invisible and nondescript vehicles pulled into their respective parking lots. The uniqueness of this morning's activity is that although the drivers were operating in unison, they were totally unaware of the existence of each other. They were simply lone wolf jihadists following tiny pieces of Mokhtar Barakat's plan orchestrated from afar. On time and in unison, at 8:30 a.m., 30 minutes from the start of Lincoln's special event, each driver slipped into the back of his minivan and uncovered his vehicle of terror, a black 6-rotor drone looking like any other. These, however, were equipped with video cameras programmed to automatically upload images in real time to social media sites across the world, providing everyone a front row seat to Bearcat's plan. As the clock ticked, each drone's human flipped the power button, automatically requiring no further action on the operator's part other than to open the sunroof and drive away. The drones came to life with a short series of beeps and tests of their rotors. Once the tests were complete, a blue LED began blinking, indicating the targeting information was being loaded from the operator's smartphone into his drone's memory. 30 seconds later, the blue LED changed its color, glowed steady red. The drones were ready and in full autonomous mode. At 8:40 a.m., 20 minutes from the start of the event, 25,000 Nebraskans and visitors enthusiastically engaged as either a participant, fan, or vendor. Sheriff Johnson, however, could not allow himself the luxury of enjoying the race and its associated festivities. He awaited the start of the annual event from the warmth of his mobile command center. Not because he couldn't handle the cold, his SEAL training assured him of that, but because the command center was the only place where he could keep an eye on everything. From command center, Johnson got to see the big picture, from body cameras on his deputies' uniforms, street cameras, Lincoln's sheriff helicopter, news feeds, and 4 images from each of the department's camera drones operated from the back of the van. At 8:50 a.m., 4 sunroofs opened in unison and invisible to one another. The drones, albeit not fast, were swift. At 30 miles per hour, they would each arrive at their destination in about 4 minutes, or approximately 8:54 a.m., only minutes prior to the race's start. Eerily, each drone began to rise up, quietly slipping through its sunroof until reaching its assigned 300-foot altitude. Once at altitude, the drones paused for only a moment to confirm GPS signals. Once positioning was confirmed, as on cue, the drones began their short 2-mile, 5-minute journey. Climbing back into the front seats, Bearcat's deliverers of evil pulled away and began their trek back to their suburban existences, living the American dream. As scheduled, 1 minute from the kill zone, each drone's video camera began broadcasting its trek. The drone's video feeds, uploaded by their own dedicated burner cell phones, began propagating across the globe, seeking likes from the Islamic State supporters. At T-minus 1 minute, the 4 drones arrived on station, joined up, and descended to 50 feet above the crowd at Race Central. "Look, Mom," shouted one little boy. Unfortunately, unlike the sheriff's camera-laden observation drones, Bearcat's 4 drones were each heavily laden with pounds of C4 embedded with stainless steel ball bearings. T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The video feeds went dark, yet the intensity of the explosion is felt a mile away. The sheriff's command center rocked and chaos and confusion became the new normal for Lincoln, Nebraska. Bearcat would not find out until later that day, until the carnage had been assessed, the impact of his plan. He, along with the rest of the world, will learn that Lincoln lost 1,014 of its citizens and 3,000 suffered injuries. Unfortunately, the survivors will be injured for life. Each will carry with them forever the aftertaste of terror. Number 2, Chicago, Illinois, April 19, 9 a.m. The first officer of Central Airlines Flight 224 from Buffalo completed the landing checklist and, as directed by Chicago Approach Control, contacted O'Hare Tower. "O'Hare Tower, Central 224 on the ILS 9000 inbound from Mott. Central 224, radar contact, winds 270 at 10, cleared to land on 28 right. Roger, Central 224, cleared to land," acknowledged Stan. Captain Landers deftly commanded the gigantic Boeing 757 as he tracked the invisible radio beacon of O'Hare's instrument landing system to land on runway 28 right. Landers called out to his first officer for this flight, Stan Barrett, to extend the flaps 10 degrees. "Roger, Captain," replied Barrett, "flaps 10 degrees. Don't you just love arriving into O'Hare over Lake Michigan in the early morning? Captain, altitude 4,000, crossing Adam." "Roger, Stan. Absolutely. This is just a beautiful morning." "Captain, altitude 2,200, crossing Wilt." "Did you see that?" asked Stan, a little startled. "See what, Stan?" "I don't know. It looked like a flock of birds down below." "Stan, keep an eye out for them. If necessary, we'll call a missed approach." "Roger, Captain. Crossing the inner marker at 800 feet. "Captain, look. Those aren't birds. What the hell? They look like something mechanical hovering below and ahead. The captain called for a missed approach. Stan pushed the throttles to full power, unfortunately moments too late, as a swarm of 8 attack drones converged on Flight 224, exploding into a ball of fire in the Boeing's path, delivering its deadly cargo of pounds of metal shrapnel. Mayday! Mayday! May! Ladies and gentlemen, this is United News Network breaking news. Central Airlines Flight 224 crashed on landing at Chicago O'Hare Airport 30 minutes ago. No news as to the survivors. However, from the mobile phone video footage we have been provided, it shows the airliner flying through a ball of fire just before landing. From this video footage, it seems obvious the airliner was attacked. As to how, why, and by whom, we can only speculate, but it's obvious that Flight 224 encountered a massive airburst of some sort and suffered enough damage to cause it to crash. We will follow this news closely and keep you updated as the new information comes in. Number 3. Central Park, New York, April 19, 10 a.m. Central Park, located in Manhattan, is a truly unique destination for New Yorkers, with an average of 2,000 visitors on any spring Sunday. Today, like any other Sunday morning in April, thousands of New Yorkers and visitors were jogging, riding bikes, and doing any number of outdoor activities for which Central Park was famous. Yet today is not like any other Sunday morning in April. Today at 8:30 a.m., Islamic State jihadists moved into position. Each soldier of Islam arrived in his nondescript minivan or SUV at his assigned point of engagement positioned within 3 miles of Central Park. The cadre of jihadists encircled Central Park from Union City, Long Island City, Harlem, Murray Hill, Cliffside Park, and Astoria. Just like their counterparts in Lincoln and Chicago, these culprits had at the ready their personal attack drones, each loaded to capacity with 4 pounds of C4 and thousands of stainless steel ball bearings, all of which selected for its weight, power, and lethality. Each drone had been preloaded with a flight plan that allowed them to navigate at 100 feet above the ground, weaving in between New York's labyrinth of concrete and steel over the Sunday quiet streets in stark contrast to the hustle and bustle of a New York weekday. Even the smaller crowds that made their way through New York were unaware of 6 drones just above their heads or outside their windows. Each drone's faint whisper from its propellers and small presence were overwhelmed by the enormity of the Big Apple and cacophony of the city's sounds. But yet, 6 drones were about to deliver a wake-up call to the city that never sleeps, not heard since 9/11. The Islamic State is about to let the other shoe fall on New York. Becky, is there anyone who doesn't like Central Park in the spring, especially on a beautiful Sunday morning? Asked Char, Becky's twin sister. So true, sis. I only wish Dad were still alive to enjoy this with us. He and Mom so enjoyed bringing us here as kids. Becky and Char Waters, New York high fashion models, enjoyed their Sunday morning tradition of jogging through Central Park, visiting with old friends and meeting new ones. Today will be a little different. Char, what's that sound? Bees? I don't know, Becky, but it's coming from over there. No, Char, I think it's coming from over there. I think they're drones. I bet someone is filming a movie or something. Let's follow them and get discovered, suggested Becky. The 2 beautiful New Yorkers turned right and began heading to what looked like the squadron of drones' destination, directly over the most heavily populated area. Becky wasn't completely wrong. The drones were filming, but not for a movie or a commercial. Each drone carried with it a video camera broadcasting live on the World Wide Web its trek through Central Park, documenting every second of its unspeakable mission. As Char and Becky arrived at what soon would become Ground Zero, they joined a growing throng, now thousands strong, each looking up in typical New York fashion, with their sunglassed eyes wide and mouths open, pointing up at the ballet of 6 innocuous little vehicles orbiting in harmony 50 feet above the crowd, broadcasting video of thousands of onlookers. Unfortunately, curiosity is even more dangerous to these unwitting New Yorkers than to the proverbial cat. As the drones orbited, their autonomous programming initiated a synchronized countdown to 10 a.m., the same time as Lincoln and Chicago. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The drone video feeds immediately go black, no longer broadcasting their journey, not broadcasting the chaos and carnage wreaked by 24 pounds of C4 embedded with 20,000 deadly stainless steel ball-bearing projectiles, each capable of killing someone in its way. This morning, New York lost more of its family, In one swift and invisible blow, 5,000 innocent visitors of Central Park lay dead and thousands more injured. The bitter taste of terror, long since begrudgingly pushed to the back of our minds, has now come to the fore, a taste that will not soon go away. Langley. Deep in the bowels of agency headquarters, the 12-person anti-terrorist task force, including White House Chief of Staff Roger Kearns and Vice President Terrence Colby, sat quietly around the massive semicircular conference table, basking in the bluish glow of digital displays depicting every corner of the globe. Richard Grant, CIA station chief responsible for leading today's meeting, quietly stood at the podium, shuffling papers and adjusting the barely visible wireless microphone clipped over his right ear. "Ladies and gentlemen," said Grant, "thank you for being part of what I believe will prove to be the most important meeting since 9/11. As you know, yesterday Lincoln, Nebraska, and Chicago joined New York as the latest cities to experience terror firsthand. Today's topic is the result of intense intelligence gathering from satellites, drones, ground-based agency assets, and the NSA. This morning, we are going to discuss indefensible lone wolf automated terrorism." You may recall 18 months ago a Falcon jet operated by Autonomous Systems, Inc., carrying their leading technologist and CEO, was lost and presumed crashed in the Bay of Bengal on its way from Mumbai to Kuala Lumpur to participate in a conference on robotics and autonomous systems. The last communication with the aircraft was from its captain declaring an emergency, reporting a fire in the cabin and loss of 2 of its 3 engines. After an exhaustive search, no wreckage or sign of the aircraft was found. The search efforts continued for 3 months and was finally terminated, declaring the aircraft as lost, presumably crashed in the Bay of Bengal. However, 90 days ago, a posting on an Al-Qaeda message board stated that a new age of autonomous jihad was about to begin. Aside from the odd reference to autonomous jihad, the more interesting aspect of this posting was that it was signed by RC. We believe RC is Richard Chambers, former CEO of Autonomous Systems. Please direct your attention to the screen behind me. What you see here is a video from an agency drone operating at 35,000 feet and 200 miles northeast of Kandahar, a long-time suspected training area led by Emir Mokhtar Barakat. The drone images clearly shows a group of Al-Qaeda operatives encircling whom we believe to be Barakat. His image can be seen on the screen to my left. Supporting this belief is the ground-based video recorded at the same time as the drone video from one of our embedded agency operators. As we zoom into the man at the center, facial recognition gives us a 98% confidence that this man is Mokhtar Barakat. Even more interesting is the man to the left. Again, facial recognition analysis gives us a 99% confidence that this person is Richard Chambers. The group stirred nervously. Vice President Colby couldn't contain himself and blurted, "How is this possible? How can a bunch of backward towelheads accomplish this?" "First," replies Grant, "considering Barakat's education, he is far from backwards. More importantly, if our theory is correct, Barakat's organization hijacked a leading-edge team of developers to do the heavy lifting. As I said, Chambers had 6 members of his team on the plane. Our experts believe if Chambers only retained 2 or 3 of his team members, they possessed enough brain power to achieve Barakat's objectives." Barakat is not your run-of-the-mill third world terrorist. In 1995, Barakat earned his undergraduate degree in electrical engineering at the University of Edinburgh. 4 years later, he received his master's and doctorate in autonomous systems at the same university. For a very long time, we have suspected Barakat as being the brainchild of Al-Qaeda's technological terror initiatives, including cyber crimes such as hacking commercial and government computers. More interesting is Barakat's passion for technology applications specific to robotic autonomous systems, systems we believe are at the core of his indefensible aerial strike force, the modality employed in Lincoln, Chicago, and New York. As you watch Barakat, it's clear he is performing some activity with the device in his hand. Yet very shortly, everyone's attention turned to the east, appearing to be watching some activity near a small building. After 2 minutes, there was a massive explosion, and the structure became a pile of rubble and dust. As we zoom into the area where the explosion occurred and move backward in time, we can make out what are clearly 8 multi-rotor microdrones operating in a coordinated pattern. According to our lab, the explosion is equivalent to approximately 16 pounds of C4, more than adequate to cause substantial damage to any structure. After reviewing this footage, we concluded that Bearcat, with the aid of Richard Chambers and some members of Chambers' team, have implemented a micro-drone aerial attack capacity of remarkable proportion, a capacity that is likely fully autonomous, inexpensive, and capable of coordinated scheduled attacks on any target. Just as we witnessed in the video, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot overemphasize when I say any target. More disconcerting to us is that the size, speed, low-cost, stealth nature of this technology, making for a massive and indefensible attack strategy. Grant picked up a second binder and placed it on the podium. Now, let's take a look at the recent attacks at Lincoln, Nebraska, New York, and Chicago. He pressed the start button on his hand controller and turned his attention to the main screen. Shown here are composite images drawn from a variety of sources throughout Lincoln, New York, and Chicago, the day of the 3 attacks. The images flash from one perspective to another. Until now, said Grant, none of the images revealed any information about the attack mechanism. The final sequence taken from Lincoln's helicopter orbiting over the event, local surveillance video at Chicago O'Hare, and traffic cameras in the New York area proves more revealing. Here we see 4 multi-rotor drones in Lincoln, 6 similar drones in Chicago and New York. Each craft is approximately 2 feet across. The Lincoln video sequence clearly shows the 4 drones arriving overhead at about 300 feet above the ground. The drones then joined up into a tight diamond formation above ground zero and began descending at a high rate of speed to about 30 feet above the ground. All at once, the 4 drones leveled off and the explosives were detonated, spraying steel ball-bearing shrapnel in every direction. In New York Central Park, 6 multi-rotor drones approached from different directions and joined in formation over the most densely populated area of the park. Precisely at 10 a.m. Eastern, in sync with the other attacks, these drones descended within 50 feet of the crowd gathered below, as shown in the drone's video. The video feed went black and 5,000 New Yorkers lost their lives. Similarly, 6 drones gathered together from low altitude positioned themselves on the approach path of Central Airlines Flight 224 into O'Hare. In unison, the drones' explosive payloads were detonated in the path of Flight 224. The concussion and ensuing fireball caused substantial damage. As in the Lincoln and New York attacks, evidence of the stainless steel ball bearings was detected, which exacerbated the concussive effect of the explosion, further damaging Flight 224 and causing it to crash, killing all 227 souls on board. As you can see, these drones operated together seamlessly. More interesting, after reviewing cell and satellite logs, it appears no communication took place between the drones or ground-based facilities. We believe these aircraft are operating on a fully autonomous basis and demonstrating a heretofore unseen degree of adaptability consistent with artificial intelligence. But these are just toys, commented Vice President Colby. How can they pose a threat? On the contrary, Mr. Vice President, snapped back Grant, these devices are as much toys as your iPhone is just a phone. Today, off-the-shelf drones available from general retailers and websites have tremendous capability. They have GPS navigation, real-time video uplinks, programmable flight planning, speed, and amazing payload capacity. Upwards of 10 pounds. Toys or not, Bearcat systems are effective and functionally invisible. Grant put up a radar screen from Chicago Center the morning of the attack. As depicted on these radar plots recorded at the time of the attack, there is no discernible radar reflection from these drones due to their size, minimal surface area, and low operating altitude. Exasperated, Grant moved to sum up his presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing a genuine paradigm shift in terror. The technology and deployment operatives are clearly working under the radar, both figuratively and literally. This technology enables the attackers to begin an attack miles from their intended targets, making the area to monitor too immense for existing surveillance techniques. Vice President Colby wiped the sweat from his brow. What in hell am I going to tell the president? Al-Qaeda has a weapon made from toys against which the most powerful nation in the world is defenseless? Mr. Vice President, replied Grant, everyone here at the agency, the FBI, and the FAA are working the problem. We will develop a solution to neutralize this threat. We have to.